Hi guys, Rob here again, and just want to make a short video about my jazz quartet because it's now getting a few more gigs. People are now starting to cotton on to what the whole thing is about. And basically the band started back in 1990 something, you know, in between gigs with Innes Seiburn, who I was working with, a really good UK blues guitarist. You know, and the other local gigs I was doing, being a sideman for other people. I thought it'd be quite a cool thing to get a drummer-led quartet or trio. It was a trio sometimes, and you know, go out and play some of the tunes that were made famous by those drummers, like Moanin' by Art Blakey, you know, Take 5 with Joe Morello with the Dave Brubeck Quartet, and you know, not be a sound alike or anything, but just, you know, play some different feels and different styles of drumming to introduce, you know, that the fact that yes, obviously the frontmen and women and what have you are really important of the band, and the composers of course, but the drummer and the rhythm section have got a hell of a lot to do with the success of a tune and how it works. And then obviously earlier this year, and well late last year, I realised that I wasn't touring with Susie Sue or with Lorena McKinnett, so I had to delve back into my grab bag of tricks, not only to, you know, get back out there and work with other musicians in the studio and in a live situation, but also get back on the masterclass route, which I've done with Steve White, and they're brilliant. I'm loving working with him. He's like a spiritual brother, and I look up to him. It's amazing to be working with him. That's a whole beautiful thing, which I've spoken about before. But also I thought I should get the quartet back together. Now sheepishly, I sort of went back to Matthew Sibley, and Matt Sibley's a tenor sax player who I worked with back in, I suppose we first met in 91, 92, and we've gigged all through the decades up to the present day, on and off. There were big periods of time though where I didn't see him, and he was off touring with the Super Furry Animals, as well as sort of travelling sort of Motown shows and things like that, and doing sessions. Yeah, the same story with all my friends. We're all session players and we all do what we do. So I approached Matt, and I also approached another good friend, John Paul Guard, keyboard player, who famously in this area is known for playing the Hammond and playing the pedals, the bass pedals with his feet. I mean, it's incredible. I'm actually gigging tonight with him actually in Swindon. Though when you see this, it won't be tonight. But yeah, it was, it's always a pleasure to play and watch his feet go. It's like, and most of the audience, you know, who are on the same level as so they can see what he's doing, they're all staring at his feet, no matter who the front person is. And no matter what I'm doing at any point, it's always about John. But he also, what I love about John, like myself, he's got an eclectic sort of music taste. And he's got loads of synths and loads of other sort of more conventional keyboards as well. But he's got loads of little mini Moogs and Wasps and all sorts of little Junos. And, you know, he's got all of the stuff. So I love that. And he loves that sort of dancey element and funk element and also the yacht rock. He's got a whole host of stuff going on. So I approached John about it. And bass player wise, I approached Paul Jeffries, who I've only known for the last couple of years, but he's a lovely guy, awesome bass player on electric and upright. And he booked me for a few gigs at his jazz clubs. He runs a few different jazz clubs around the Cotswold sort of area, down into Swindon and Cirencester rather, and so on. And I approached him to join, and he was into it, so that was great. And he's now booking a few more gigs for us, and I'm booking some gigs. John's booking gigs, Matt's, you know. So basically, I approached all these people, not having been a band leader, don't like that term, but in charge of a band for quite a while. So when I approached them, I was a little bit, as I say, nervous about it, but thankfully they all got back and said, yes, love to do it. The next thing was trying to explain what we're going to do. And I wanted to bring back this idea of what I'd done back in the 90s of doing various tunes that aren't necessarily out there or off the beaten track, you know, they're not rarities or deep cuts, but it's what we actually do to the tracks which makes the difference. And I remember seeing a great Keith Jarrett documentary many years ago where he used to speak to some of his, where he was speaking about his students. And one student was sort of saying to him, if you don't know, Keith Jarrett is an amazing jazz piano player, but he can also play great classical piano as well. And his student said, do I have to keep doing these jazz standards? You know, I've been through them. Surely there's only so much you can do. And he was like, you're joking, aren't you? You know, we could change the time signature for this standard. We could reharmonize it. We could do it in other keys. There's so many other approaches of feels that we can do and styles. And I was really inspired by that because somebody so great on so many levels was thinking like just rinsing one idea. And you guys who are drummers who watch this quite a lot know that I talk at length about taking an idea and really soaking it, rinsing it dry, making sure we can get every kind of option out of an idea before we try and move on to the next brilliant idea. Let's use our creativity and what we've got to make this one idea work. So the idea was I gave them the set list, and it ranges, we could do like Cantaloupe Island, Speak No Evil, Maiden Voyage, Watermelon Man, Footprints, Oleo, You Don't Know What Love Is, How High the Moon, Record of May, Black Orpheus, none of them are ones that you think, oh, wow. But as I say, it's how we play them. So the idea is always, they're the chords, that's the structure, we know it, but where can we take this thing? And I thought it'd be really cool to include the Roland SPDS SX, because I love those things. I use them a lot with Lorena and also with Susie, and with other artists, and I program and I enjoy that business, making loops and stuff like that. So I thought I'd like to include this, because in this Bath Bristol area, we're very lucky to have some amazing bands, musicians in this area who are cutting edge and fantastic and all doing great things. But nobody I thought was really covering this sort of idea of jazz, funk, fusion, crossover. So the fusion crossover is like, we'll do How High the Moon, but I'll play it in a very kind of Gene Krupa, Chicago style way, George Wetling and all those early drummers. And I really enjoy playing that kind of style, playing up near the rim of the snare drum, sort of racky-dacky kind of style. But, doing a really heartfelt rendition. It's not trying to be like, oh, this is it. This is supposed to be a representation of where the drums have gone, where it was taken in the future and where they came from. So I'll play it in that style. And then the next tune we play could include loads of loops and synth pads and some voice samples. And it could be Maiden Voyage, because our version of Maiden Voyage does that. And I've got a halftime loop going on, which is heavily processed, which goes throughout the track. And I play the full time over the top, and we keep that loop going through the song to give us this sort of full time, halftime feel. And it just gives it a totally different vibe. And John gets on the synths and gets more kind of way out with it, not trippy dancey, obviously, but just kind of more vibey and chill, as you could say. A bit like those chilled Ibiza albums, it's sort of coming from that place. And then, so there we've got How High the Moon and Maiden Voyage, two totally different things, but they can both exist next door to each other and it's still cohesive. So that was my idea. And when we do Take 5, the Dave Brubeck tune, we start conventionally, and I'm listening to it on a click from the SPDS, and we play that, and then I start soloing in 5 with John playing the vamp after we've done the head. And then John stops vamping, I bring the solo down, hit a pad, and we go into 4/4 drum and bass. I've come up with this nice programmed groove, and again some pads I can hit, and then John again gets on the synths and gets way out, and we get a bit more kind of headhunters-y maybe in that world. And from there it could go into anything. So that was, and then it comes back after a little brief bass solo and a bit of a drum break and some samples and bits. It then comes back into we wind it right down so it almost falls down, and then John picks up the just as I'm bringing something down, and we fall back into it, as if someone's taken the needle off the record and then put it back on again. That's kind of the idea. And all the tunes, they're not all as kind of way out as that, but they take you on a bit of a journey. And that was the idea of it. And I'm getting some wonderful feedback from it, and that feels really good. And like our version of Cantaloupe Island, the Herbie Hancock tune, I took the S3 samples just of the drum loop and the funky, and let's have a big hand now. Well, wait a minute. I mean, if you know the original, you know what I mean. Go and check it out, S3, Cantaloupe Island. It's on an album called Hands on the Torch, which is great. And S3 took all these, they were the first band that I'm aware of that took all these, officially could take all the Blue Note samples and make new raps and funk tunes from that. So it was about 92, 93. It was quite cutting edge. It might sound a bit kind of old school now, but it was pretty cool at the time. And we do a version of footprints. And of course, I'm comparing this and I'm telling people, it's not like a lecture. It sounds like it could be. But I'm going through little tidbits of information that let people know about the drummer, the vibe, why these things were changing, what's cool about this and the other. You know, in between a few little gags and a few little stories about band members along the way. John Paul and his famous car stereo story. And the version of Footprints, I've got this, again, I've made this hip hop loop and I've got the classic Can You Dig It from the Warriors movie. I've got that sample, which was a big thing of the time, 93, 94, everyone was borrowing, and even earlier actually than that, using that sample, and the famous Oh Yeah, that sample as well. A few little Prince ones, You Sexy Mother, I won't say the other bit, and just, yeah, various sound effects from those records that I use with that loop, and instantly it takes you back into that vibe, and it's great. So when that loop's running, just at the drum groove on Cantaloupe, I can just come off the kit and, you know, grab a shaker or a tambourine, and it can change the vibe, you know. And on Footprints, you know, I start with this like more Tony Williams, ding, ding, did, kind of Elvin Jonesy kind of Latin thing. And we do Footprints in 4, and of course I'm on the click, as I say, and then maybe we might do the first piano solo or the sax solo in that vibe, and then somewhere along the way, you know, when there's the transition between solos, and none of it's planned, it's just how it happens, you know, I'll look and then I'll do a little drum thing and it'll be like boosh, and I'll hit the sample, but of course it will come in the same tempo because I've been playing to the click, and then that goes for a little while and the bass sort of joins, and then I can stop it like you do on sort of, you know, dance records, and stop it 1, 2, 3, oh yeah, boom, and it comes back in, all that kind of malarkey. And we have some fun with that, maybe a little drum thing, and we'll finish Footprints with that breakbeat. You know, and beforehand I'll mention how, you know, jazz music and rap and dance music met late 80s, early 90s, and this is how it happened, and how, you know, how they're good bedfellows, how they work really well together. So as I say, we are not trying to invent the wheel. It's just kind of naturally feels a natural kind of, it's almost like a history vibe in a gig. And we'll also do Latin stuff, maybe a bossa that goes into double time Latin. There could be a fast Latin that breaks down, you know, into a different kind of Latin feel. So as I say, it's all up for grabs. Plus a ballad. We don't always do a ballad, but You Don't Know What Love Is. It's the usual ballad. And I'm thinking of getting Carolina in as well to sing some tunes to change it up again. Maybe only 2 or 3 tunes, but just to have a different element coming in. But we gigged last Sunday at Riff Corner, the Riff Corner in Clevedon, and it just went down really well. Got some really great feedback, and I wasn't even, some people were asking for CDs and, you know, where's the website? And I was like, blimey, I wasn't even ready for that. You know, I wasn't ready for that much enthusiasm. But some people don't get it, and they say, oh, well, I'm not sure why you go into the other versions and why everything changes all the time. But to me, jazz is about, you know, continual change. That was the point. If you talk to any of the greats like Miles and Coltrane and all that, the music was moving forward, not back. So within one tune like Take 5, the fact that we can play it authentically and then go off into this crazy world of drum and bass, as I say, it's kind of dancey Underworld. If you know the band Underworld, I love them. And then it sort of might end up going in reggae, you know, it might, you know, I'll stop the drum and bass loop and it might turn into something else during the bass solo, and then it comes back to the, you know, that to me isn't just trying to reinvent the wheel or forcing ideas together. It's kind of, they flow naturally. And as I say, I was tentative with the band members to use these things, but all of them have really got behind it. And Matt Sibley was saying just last Sunday that he loves the loops in there. It gives like this sort of glue to the vibe and gives it a modern approach. Because I've always said to people, I can play the same groove as the loop, and, you know, heads will nod, but you play the same groove on a loop which has been processed and everyone instantly starts dancing. And I always thought, put the two together, because, you know, that I was a child of the 80s and hearing, I'll say him again, but Prince playing live with the live drummer, but also the drummer triggering sounds from the Simmons, or the Lynn drum, or playing along with loops, certainly for the Diamonds and Pearls tour and the later stuff. Just the sound in an arena or stadium of live drums, but with the loop from the record, it's just phenomenal. Of course, all bands do it now, but that was the first time I felt it, and it sort of hits you in the chest, and it's just an amazing kind of sound. So I wanted to bring that into this little quartet. So that's what happens, and you know, Paul on bass, and sometimes we have Adrian Smith step in because Paul's busy, and I'm quite lucky so far that nearly all the band members could do all the gigs, but Paul has had to do other things as well. So we've got Adrian Smith on bass, he's been brilliant. And I say to the guys, use your pedals, you know, any ideas you've got, effects pedals, loopers, whatever it is, as long as, you know, we can hear it and it works, especially with a looper, because they can be a bit, if you haven't got monitoring. But yeah, I'm into, I'll take all comers and takers, do you know what I mean? It's like, any idea goes. So that's the idea of the quartet. So if you're out there thinking, oh, that sounds quite fun, I'll be putting dates on my socials soon. There's a date coming up, well, I'll say them now, September the 26th at the Crafty Egg in Fish Ponds in Bristol, which is Carolina's club. And the other one will be at the Bebop, which I think is the Hen and Chicken in Bristol. That's November the 13th. And there's going to be some more. I'm going to try and get some in Bath, get some in Chippenham. And if you're out there as a punter and you want to come along, do so, because it's really good fun. I need to start getting testimonials from people, because I've had some really nice feedback. And even a couple that danced to take 5, because I threw it out there, the gauntlet, to say, no one dances to take 5. And they got up and they got down. And they got down during the drum solo, which was still in 5. I mean, the vamp helped on the piano, but yeah, amazing. And if you're out there thinking, oh, I've got a jazz club, or I know someone who would like this, or a pub or a club that would dig it, then contact me. Emails here, you know, usual thing, or leave it in the comments below and I'll get back to you. But it's a really fun project, and we've only got a few clips, which I'll tag onto this, I guess, that Carolina took when she came along to suss out whether she wanted to sing with the band. So she took a few clips here and there. And yeah, it's just great fun. I'm really enjoying it. And the fact that the fact that the whole place doesn't empty when we're playing is a good sign. And I'm so lucky, as I say, to have Paul Jeffries and Adrian Smith on basses. I'm lucky to have Matt Sibley on the saxophone, and I'm lucky to have John Paul Guard on the keyboards, because they're soul brothers. As I say, those other two go back many, many years. Paul Jeffries I've known for 2 or 3. Adrian I've known for probably 6 or 7, but me and Matt and John, you know, we go way back to young, crazy times in the early 90s. And it's great that we've all sort of grown apart, but still can come together and make music. It's really good. So that's the quartet. I'm on fire about it. I love it. I hope you like it too. And hopefully I'll see you at a gig soon. Maybe those ones in Bristol. And as I say, I'm trying to get some in my hometown of Chippenham, maybe Corsham, and maybe Bath as well. Definitely Bath. And more around Bristol, obviously. And I'm contacting jazz clubs in Cardiff and all over the place. So if you know of anyone that I could hit up that I haven't thought of already, as I say, send me an email or drop it in the comments. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay groovy, stay jazzy, and I'll see you on the next video.